We'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome everybody to Mazévo Connect. This is our monthly webinar series on various Mazévo topics. This month we're going to be talking about the confirmation, the document that's created out of Mazévo and a lot of other scheduling systems that you use with your customers. We'll be talking about the ins and outs of that. If this is your first time coming to a Mazévo Connect, we do these every month. Usually towards the end of the month, and the format for these is it's pretty basic. We'll be presenting on the topic here today. It's going to be presented by myself and a couple of other of Mazévo staff here with me, and we'll be going through it. As we're going through things, if you do have questions throughout the presentations, feel free to put it in the chat there right now, and then we can also we'll probably have a few minutes at the end as well for Q&A. So we can actually have you just unmute yourself if you prefer to save your question for the end and just ask it verbally that way. Sometimes that's easier depending on the question. So we're totally open to that as well. So yeah, and it looks like we've got a good turnout here today. We were doing these Mazévo Connects on Friday for a while, and you know, Friday's kind of a tough day. Everybody's getting ready for the weekend. You could almost argue today sort of feels like a Friday as we head into the holiday weekend. I'm not sure if anyone else here is going to be having tomorrow off or not, but we are heading into the holiday weekend, which is always nice and probably feels like a breath of fresh air for some people to get that extra long weekend here. Let's see, just a couple announcements before we get started. One thing, those of you that are Mazévo customers on this call right now, you may have noticed recently that Mazévo seems a little bit slower maybe than it has up until the last few weeks. And just want to let you know we are working on that. We're very aware of the situation. It usually manifests itself as this little spinning wheel, and you've got to wait for a few seconds for it to go away. Hopefully it's a few seconds and not longer. But anyways, we are very aware of it. We're actually in the process of taking care of it right now, but it's not, unfortunately, it's not a quick fix. So it's probably going to be a few more weeks until it's fully resolved. But you may actually see that in the presentation a little bit today. I'm not sure, hopefully not. But anyways, just wanted to make everybody aware of that. We are also putting up a new Mazévo system status page. It's just a web page you can always go to. So if you're ever questioning, like if you're having trouble accessing Mazévo and you're like, wonder what's going on here, you can always check our system status page and it'll tell you if Mazévo's up and running or not. Because sometimes it's difficult to tell if the trouble's on your end with maybe your organization's internet connection or if it's on our end with things. So we'll be sending out some information about that here shortly, but you can go check it out right now if you'd like. It's just status.mymazévo.com, and you can bring that up. It's fully live at the moment. I'll be hooking it up to our website here soon, but just know that that exists, and we're putting that out there as well. So anyways, I am joined by two of my Mazévo colleagues here with me today. I've got Wendy Newland, who does a lot of our implementations for us. Those of you that are Mazévo customers have maybe worked with Wendy as you were getting up and running with Mazévo. So she'll be doing part of the presentation here today. And then I've got Dean Evans with us as well. He's our CEO, and he'll be doing part of the presentation. So anyways, that's it for my announcements here. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to rearrange some of my screen here so we can see some things. All right. Okay, so we're talking about the confirmation. Let me go ahead and share what exactly that is. I actually have an example of one up here that we can all look at together. So when I'm referring to something called the confirmation, this is what I'm referring to. Now, you all are probably already aware of that, or you wouldn't have signed up for this webinar. You've probably been like, I don't even know what they're talking about. But because you're in the events business, you are probably very aware of the confirmation. This is a example confirmation that I generated out of our little test system here in Mazévo. So as you can see, it has all the details for the customer's events on it. Now, what I did ahead of time, I thought it would be kind of fun to ask my favorite AI friend, ChatGPT, what a confirmation document is typically used for. And it gave a pretty good answer, I thought. I'll read you part of what it spit out at me here, but it says, in the hospitality industry, a confirmation document is an official communication, often in the form of a letter or email, that verifies and provides details of a reservation or booking. This document serves multiple purposes. And it goes on to say things like verification of booking details, which is very important, proof of agreement with the customer, so everybody's aware of what's being agreed to. It's also a reference for your customer as well, so they know exactly what they're getting with their reservation. It's a preparation for service, so this is more on your end. It helps you and your staff prepare for whatever services are going to be provided. And it also can provide dispute resolution. So anyways, I thought that was pretty good there. I love ChatGPT. I'm a big fan anyways. But yeah, so one thing I wanted to just mention right off the bat, you're seeing in my sample confirmation, it's a lot of times the way we refer to it here on the Mazévo side, we would just refer to it as the confirmation. But as you may or may not be aware, this document can be titled something different depending on the use case. So, some of these use cases that I just mentioned in my little ChatGPT definition there, they may be more pertinent in your organization than others, or some of them may be. So anyways, you can retitle this document here. And I went through and just kind of looked at a sampling of some of the ways that customers typically title this here. So let me go ahead. I'll share some of what those are here. If we go back to my slides. Here's some examples of how you may name this document depending on how you're going to use it. And in Mazévo, you can actually create several versions of this document so that you can have different titles on them depending on how you're going to use it. But you're seeing up here an example or several examples of just different titles. Some are pretty obvious: confirmation, contract, proposal, estimate. We see those quite a bit. But there's also some in here that, are a little bit more creative. Like I see one, no show, right? It's like maybe you want to send them a special version of this when they didn't show up for their event and you want to, let them know the ramifications of that or something. I'm not sure exactly how that one's used, but I just thought some of these kind of jumped out. I kind of like the ones action required. I thought that was interesting there. Payment due now, so you can see you can use it as a way to communicate with your customer and also let them know there's things that they need to do on their end. There's final notice up there. That one's pretty good too. So anyways, we'll be getting more into the different use cases and the different ways you can set up the confirmation as we go through this today. But I just wanted to show that to kind of get the wheels turning a little bit on some of the different ways that that the confirmation document is used. So with that said, I am now going to turn it over to Dean, and he is going to talk a little bit about how these are emailed. Is that correct, Dean? Am I going to you or are we going to Wendy?
Yeah, it's Dean.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can go to me. I don't
I
mind.
guessed correctly. So
All right, let me share my screen here. So you're taking a look at my screen and I've opened an event. So I just want to kind of go over some of the basics. I'm sure you all know how to do this. So I've opened an event here and I'm seeing, my scout meeting here and I've got these bookings. I just want to draw your attention. There's a couple of bookings that are in the past. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So we assume that you're going to send an email with this confirmation in it. And so we cleverly put the confirmation or the generation of this document, whatever you're calling, under this email button right here. And if I click that, it opens up in another window so I can get back here if I need to, but it opens up in another window and it's previewing the document. This is what it's going to look like. And it's got all the charges, and Wendy's going to tell you how you can kind of configure this. Simply put, there's some branding you can do here. Wendy's going to go into that, but right here is that title. Whoops, I didn't mean to shrink that quite like that. So let me go back over. So the confirmation, that's the title of that document. So I've got an example of this. To change the template, all of this formatting is done from the template. So to change the template, you just drop down this box, and you can have as many templates as you want. And if I go to this cancellation notice, you'll now see it's got the word cancellation on it, and that's because that's the title, and I can do that. So anyway, so that's how you would do it. Now, once you're here, let me go back and do my event confirmation. What the next thing you're going to do is send the document. And so you're going to press send. So we preview the document so you can see it. And the reason you might want to change the template, you want to make sure you have the right template and the right messages. When you're ready to send it, cleverly, you hit the send button. And here you come to this screen right here. This messaging at the top here, this is the email body. So if I just type in thank you, that's going to be in the body of the email. And I'll show you an email here in a moment. But you can have predefined messages as well that you could say thank you, hello. So this is what I just typed in right here. So you can mix and match predefined text and text that you type in there. So you can change the size of all of this and everything as well. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that. Now down here, this is the primary contact on the event. And the other contacts that are here are contacts that are tied to the Scout Club. So the organization that's on this. So we pick the primary, but you can easily pick other contacts that you want to send it to. And then when you're ready, you hit send. Now let me show you what that email looks like. It's right here. So this is the email that comes to me from, in my case, it came into my Outlook inbox. Okay. So the things I want to kind of talk about here are, what do you have control over? So the email, the subject line of the email is right here. Scout meeting confirmation T4503. So part of this is the event name. That's the Scout meeting. So if I pop back over here real quick, Scout meeting is my event name. Okay. Uh, confirmation is the title of, that's the one I picked, and that's the event ID. Now, a lot of people get worked up. Who does the email come from? And so here's the from right here. So it's always going to be here, notifications at my Mazévo, but out front, we put the name of the organization. So that's, let me go back here, and that's right up here at the top, Mazévo Demo Org 1. And for some of you that have multiple tenants, it'll be whatever tenant you're in, okay? So that's what it's here. And here's the two people that it went to. It went to Michael and it went to Dean. And this one I kind of tricked up. I've got an attachment on here. And then down in this is the body of the email. And so that note that you type in would be here. And again, we kind of repeat this in the body. And so here's all of the bookings. And you'll notice it picked up those old bookings as well. Now, it doesn't give them the actual confirmation document. It gives them a link to the document. So if they wanted to view it, they would click this button right here, view confirmation. And what's going to happen is that would open up for them a document, and here's what it would look like. Now, here's something that's kind of unique. If I were to go back to this event and make a change to it, and my customer clicked on the link that I'd sent them before, that's going to generate a new confirmation with the changes on it. Okay. So whenever they have this email and they click view confirmation or view notice or whatever you're calling it, view permit, that's going to pull up the data as it exists in the system right at that moment. Okay. And if you did change prices or statuses or things like that, that would also come through when you see the actual document as the customer. So kind of keep that in mind. Um, it doesn't hurt to send them over and over again, but you might not need to because they could click on it again. Now, of course, they're going to lose it in their inbox and forget it and things like that. So there's a good reason to send them an updated confirmation as well. So let's go back here to the email and look at this. So it's always, these are some always here. It's always going to have that kind of subject line. It's always going to be from your organization. Now, if I were to hit reply to, now this is just an image. If I were to hit reply to, here's who it's going to go to. It's all based on the confirmation template. So let's go look here. These are my confirmation templates. And if I drill into one of these, now Wendy's going to go into more of this, but this is specifically with email. There's an email address right here. So when your user replies to the confirmation, it's going to go back to this email address if you have one. Okay. If you don't have one, the reply to is going to go back to the user that sent the email, right? So the event planner that sent the email out, the reply to would go to them if the confirmation template was blank. So that's kind of important to remember, well, who's going to get a reply if they hit this? It doesn't come to us, even though it says my Mazévo right here. It's not coming to us. As soon as they hit reply, it's going to substitute an email address in there. So either from the template or from the event planner. Okay. The next thing is, well, what if I want a copy of this email for myself? Okay. So we automatically can send BCCs, blind confirmation or blind copies to other addresses automatically. We can send it to 2 different addresses. So let me go back to the confirmation template and look right here. So we've got this events at Faber. That's our fake little email for this conference event center. But if I check this box, every time we send a confirmation out that uses this template, if you check that, it'll automatically send a copy of the email to the events at faber.edu. So you can automatically have these departmental emails addresses receive a copy. Okay. The other thing you can do as an event planner, and all of your event planners can do this, or your global administrators, if you come up under profile and preferences, and you go right here, BCC when emailing an address. So every confirmation that you send out, if you want a copy to come to yourself, check that box and we'll start filling up your inbox as well. So we'll fill your inbox up. We're going to fill the departmental inbox that's on the template. We'll fill that up. And of course, your customers are going to get a copy of it as well. So, but a lot of people like to have a copy tucked away somewhere. So that's how you can automatically do that. Okay. Okay. So, that's what a confirmation looks like. Let me go back over here to my scout meeting. There's a couple of other things you can do once you've hit that email button. And so here we're back. So I'm picking my template and I'm previewing. So I concentrate on the send button, but there's a couple of other buttons up here that you might want to use. Copy link. That's going to copy the link to the confirmation to your clipboard. Some people don't necessarily like the email to come out of Mazévo because of they're carrying on a conversation. And I know some folks from Iowa were on the call here, and this was their idea, but they want to be able to carry on a conversation in their email client back and forth and be able to send the confirmation without it being a new conversation coming out of this confirmation, if that makes any sense. But you can copy that link and paste it wherever you want to put it. Okay. The other thing you can do is just hit this button here and it'll create the PDF for you, and you could save it, or you could take that PDF and email it. Hopefully the send button is good enough that you could go ahead and say hit send. So with that, let me go back over here. There's a couple of things you might want to know. Did my customer get my email? Okay. So under here, under emails, if you go to this, there's two tabs here, history and scheduled emails. So whenever you send a confirmation out of Mazévo, it's recording it for the event. Okay. And you're seeing here, it's a banquet event order. So you're seeing a bunch of different confirmation template titles that I've got here. But more importantly, this big red envelope here is telling you that it bounced. So whatever email I've got in there, the email gods of the world did not like it, and they spit up on it and said, we can't deliver this to that user. So Michael Waters at Go Mazévo is not a real account. So every time I send a confirmation to that, the email systems are failing and it's saying it's bouncing because it's a bad email. Now, if it's green, that means it was delivered. So you can actually use that little envelope at a glance to see, did my customer get it? Because if you're sending these and the customer says, I never get your emails, you could come in here, open up one of these events and see it. So it's a little indicator here. But you're seeing enough of the history here. When did you send it? Who did it come from? The recipients, and you're seeing I'm BCCing myself here, and the message. So this is the message body that went out. Okay. And then you can also see we keep any attachments here. So, and at JC, we can't see if they've opened it. I see your question there. We kind of can, but we kind of can't. So the reason is some email systems don't let you. The way that thing works is there's a hidden little graphic on your email that we don't put in there. Your email system does. And it looks at that and says, was the image displayed? And that's how you know that they've opened it. So some Outlook clients, some Google clients, more so Outlook, don't let that image get displayed. And so that you never know whether they opened it. They probably did, but we don't ever get the feedback all the way that they opened it. So there's no way to do that. So let me jump out here to the menu. If you're out looking for other email history, right here is an event planner. You have email history. And so you could come in here and look at any date range that you want. I'll just pick today. Now I can add some filters and I can say, well, I want to see the email state. So if I was looking for things that were bounced, I could actually come in here and say, I want to find all of my bounced emails for the last week. And you would see, and I don't have any, I have some for today, but so there's all my bounced ones for the day. But that's one way you can kind of look at these. So that's bounced. If you just did nothing here and said, just give me today's, you're going to see all emails that were sent out of the system today. Okay. So there's another way to see the history of that. So let's see what else is on my list here. Did it bounce? Email activity. All right. So we're not done beating up confirmations yet. There's more. So when I go to this tab right here, there's this concept of scheduled emails. And the way we do this in our demonstration system, scheduled emails are something that you can have automatically applied to your events, and they can go out before an event or after an event. Now, after an event means after the last booking date, or you can have them go out before each booking. So the way you would configure that, let me jump over here to configuration and scheduled emails. um, right there. And then if I just hit add really quick, you can see here the trigger. What's gonna trigger it? Is it based on location or service? You know, if they picked catering. And then when do you schedule it? Before the event, after, before each booking, or after the event is created. So, and now when you do this, uh, okay, I guess I have to do it here. There we go. That's what I need. I need to go a little further into configuration. But when you do these scheduled emails, you can limit it to a certain status, but you can also include a link to the confirmation. So again, depending upon your use case, if you're sending this, before each booking, hey, here's a reminder of an event that you have, you might want to include a confirmation. So this is relatively new. It's only been in there for a couple of months. So you might want to go back and just check that box and it'll start including a confirmation on your scheduled email. So, um, okay, a couple other little things here. I've got my scout meeting back up. Um, when you click this email button here at the top, it's going to send it to all non-canceled bookings for the event, regardless of whether they're in the past or in the future. Okay. So even though I might say hide old bookings and hit email, when this thing pops up, it's going to have all of those bookings on it, including the ones in the past. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Now, if you want to have more control over what's included on the confirmation, you can generate it in another way. You just check these boxes. And now instead of hitting this email up here at the top, you're going to hit this email here, and that's going to generate a confirmation for the selected bookings. So in that case, we picked two, and they're right here. Okay. Now, why would you ever do that? Well, I told you that by default, canceled bookings don't show on the confirmation. But if you select them individually and select a canceled booking, it will show when you use this method here. Okay. So if you wanted to send a note to somebody saying, hey, I've canceled these two bookings, you would select them and use this email option right here. Okay. Um, there's one other one I wanted to kind of show you here, and it kind of plays along that same lines. So I've got a different event. It's got a whole bunch of different statuses on it. I just kind of wanted to throw them all out there. So we've got confirmed, canceled, conflict. You see all of these different statuses. So when I click email, you'll notice that it comes up and it doesn't have those cancel or denied ones on it. Okay. So here's a working example of that. Uh, Now, if I really wanted that cancellation, I could go here and I could say, well, maybe I want this changed one and this denied one. Um, Let me click the canceled there. And then if I hit email, it should have those three bookings on it. So there we go. So you see the status over here at the end of that bar. One last thing I want to talk about is attachments. So whenever you generate a confirmation, the last little thing you can do here is you can add attachments. So you have to go to the next page here. When you hit send, right here is a button that you can add attachments. Okay. Now those attachments they can exist in like three different places. Okay. Just so you understand this. They can exist on your desktop, which is probably where they're going to live most of the time. But if you're constantly sending the same document out for all of your events or several of your events, I'd encourage you to put them in what we call a document library. And so this choose existing file is going to give you a choice here of things that are already been uploaded, attachments that are uploaded to the event, or attachments that are in the shared document library. So here's an example of a use policy. And let me go all the way back out here to the menu. Down here, nobody's ever clicked on this, but if you click on attachments, this is this library of common documents that you might want to send out. So all you have to do is add an attachment, give it a description, upload the file. Now that could be a Word document, a PDF, an image, Excel, whatever you want it to be, and you put it here, and then it becomes available when you send out confirmations. You can quickly add that without having to upload the document over and over again to each of your events. Okay. The other way to get this, choose an existing file, is if you had an attachment on this event, it'll be right here under the event tab. Otherwise, it's in your shared document. Now, if you have another one that you brand new document that you want to upload, you can do that right here. And it's going to go out, and I've got this spreadsheet right here. I'm going to say open that up. And so here I've got an attachment. Now you can have as many attachments as you like. I'm sure there's a limit, but it's more than one, less than 100 probably. So, but you can add them here. And now when I send this, because we know Michael's got a bad address, when I send that, off it goes. But if I come back here to my event, I'm going to refresh, but it should be right here. It's taken that spreadsheet that I just sent out as an attachment and it's put it in as a document automatically. So it's attached it here. So if I need to send it out again, I don't have to upload it from my drive, my doc, from my computer. It's already attached here so that other people can see it. So I think with that, I don't know that I can beat up sending confirmations any more than that. So I am going to turn it over to Wendy.
Okay, Dean, before you stop sharing, the piece that I'm going to talk about, and I don't have Mazévo open. So if you could go to your settings.
Okay.
And then confirmation template. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, everybody. So if you're global administrators, you have access to the settings. And now, Dean, if you want to stop sharing, and I will share.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Hopefully you can see something that says the confirmation template details tab. Do I have a yes? Yes. Okay. All right. So we're going to slow things down a bit. Everybody grab a partner. The confirmation template, I like to think of this as, let's see here. Let's see, I like to think of this as the letterhead. Is this moving at all? What are you seeing, guys? Are you seeing?
Oh, the details tab.
The same thing.
Darn it. So my screen sharing is not sliding forward. Not good. Let me do this. Let's stop sharing and reshare. Now what do you see?
You see your slideshow with all the previews.
Darn it. All right, we'll do it this way. How about that?
Yep. Back to the details tab.
Perfect. Okay, so I like to think of this as the letterhead. All right, so what you have over here on this details tab shows on the confirmation in this top area. Now you'll notice that the address, phone number, this is all optional. You don't have to have that. That's the address and typically the phone number and the email address of your department. As Dean mentioned, the email is optional. And if you click on that BCC, just going to repeat ourselves here a little bit, the email address that you have in that email section will get blind copied if that box is checked. All right, the title that also says optional, top right corner, it will appear right there above the event ID. Okay, now while we're on the topic of title, you can change that title. So the title can be different from the name, in my case, facility use agreement, Where does it show? Well, it changes in the top right. All right. What does the customer see? Well, the customer will see at that blue button, Dean was showing that earlier, where they can click on that and see the document. That's where the title appears for them. Okay, I'm trying to think of some examples of where we've had that. I think one of the customers I worked with, they put view here. Just, you need to keep in mind that if you put view here, it's going to say here up there in the top right. Typically, people keep that name the same. They keep the title the same as the name on the confirmation template, but just know that you can change it. All right, a little bit about messages. You saw earlier where Dean was pulling the messages from. Now, unlike other scheduling software companies, we can have multiple emails. I'm sorry, multiple messages on our confirmations. Where do they appear? They appear right there at the top, above your booking information. All right, and again, very clever on our part, the footer messages, and you can have multiple, appear at the bottom of the document. I'll talk a little bit more about messages at the end. All right, on the options tab of the confirmation template, this is where we can really get into the nitty-gritty here. So if the box show organization address is checked, the address of the organization for which you are booking will be there in the top left corner. It will show their address. Okay. Include room charges. So if you are including room charges, the charges of the room will appear on the right. Why would you not want those to show? Well, there may be a case where you're the catering department and you don't want to confuse your customer with your charges versus what the facilities department might be charging. So you may want to hide the room charges, but show your catering charges. That's an example of why you wouldn't want to show the room charges. All right, hide pricing. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Maybe you want to hide all the pricing on the confirmation. You don't want the customer to see the pricing because maybe you're using it as an internal document and you don't want your internal departments knowing what the pricing might be. I do want to point out that if you click on the box, include room charges, and click on the box, hide pricing, all pricing will be hidden. Okay, so the hide pricing will override showing the room charges. Show service provider totals. What is this? Well, at the bottom of your document, we can tally up what the resources are, the resources charges under each service provider. So in this example, for my 3-day event, my room charges are $300, my AV, $30, and my catering, $464.70. Sort of like a tally of your service providers, and that will show at the bottom. Show setup and teardown times. What does this look like to the customer? Well, on this example, I have added customer access time that cannot be suppressed because this is an external facing document. But the setup and teardown time, you can expose that. So in this example, my event is at 9:30, my setup time is at 8:45, and my teardown time will extend until 12, and I am exposing that to the customer. More often than not, our customers don't click that box simply because they don't want their customers showing up to the event while they're still trying to set up or break down. Okay. All right, show attendance. Relatively new, but what is that? Well, it's going to appear in the top right corner. Now notice that this says attendance 31. Where is this pulling from? Well, it's pulling from this field here at the event level. Now, something that I want to caution you about. Each of my bookings are set up for 10 people. Had I not gone in and changed the attendance to 31, the attendance would say 10. All right. But I've gone in and I've said, well, my grand total for my attendance for this event, whether I set up for that number of people or not, is 31. And then it will appear in the top right. Again, optional if you even want to show that. All right. Show event description. Some of you are asking, what in the heck is event description? Event description is a setting that we can turn on. All right. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's a setting that we turn on. It appears here on the confirmation if that box is checked above your messages. How does the event description even get on an event? Well, if we've turned the setting on, this is where the event planner puts the event description. This is where the requester puts the event description. Okay. Any questions on event description, what it might be used for? Do we have any questions there, Brian or Dean?
Not
Okay.
So far. Nope.
Okay. Event notes. Since the beginning, we have been telling you event notes print nowhere. Do not use these for communicating with people. Well, all good software companies have the right to change their mind. So we did. And
With a little help, a little prod. from
yeah,
somebody.
and I think that fraud is on the line. I think her name is Nancy. Anyway, event notes. You can determine whether you want them to print on the confirmation or not. Now, I have an example here of one that I do not want to print on the confirmation, which is the default, and one that I want to print on the confirmation. So I clicked the little box, yes. And where does it show? Right there. So now we have the event description showing on the confirmation, the header message showing on the confirmation, and the notes. So we retract our previous statement, and yes, you can print event notes somewhere, and there it is. Okay, room diagram. I can go into an event and upload an attachment or a link, and it will provide this little blue icon. So this is what it looks like to you, the event planner, when you've done such a thing. This is what it looks like on the confirmation. And when the customer clicks on that link, the room diagram pops up. Okay. So now no questions. What room diagram do you have? What did you put with my event? Blah, blah, blah. It's right there on the confirmation. All right, a few words about branding. You can change our logo out and put your logo, and this is under account settings. If you're a global administrator, you see account settings in the top right. And you can change the primary color. The primary color are those blue bars on your confirmation that have the location and the time and the building, I believe. I can't remember.
Yep.
So you can change that under account settings. All right, a few more words about messages. As I said, I was going to talk a little bit about messages here. Notice where it says, welcome to the University of Augusta. I have highlighted that. I've made it bold. I've changed the color. You can really jazz up your messages a bit. You can also put links. You can embed links in your messages. So here I have, click here for a campus map. I highlighted the word here. I click on that little link icon right here. I put in the address of the link, and I clicked the box open link in a new window. Here's what the customer sees on their confirmation. Notice that it's red. Welcome to the University of Augusta. And when they click on that, there's the new window that they would see. Any questions? All right. Nothing, Brian? Nothing, Dean? Nothing come up?
Nothing
No, but
yet.
there was a lot of cheering about the event notes printing on the confirmation in the
Oh,
chat. So
yay, Nancy, there you go. Shout out to Nancy from Lord of Life. Good. All right, that concludes my tour. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
And over to you, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Wendy and Dean. I'm going to wrap things up. I've got just a couple of things that I want to show that aren't directly about the confirmation, but they're related closely enough that I did want to mention them. So let me pull up my screen again here for everybody. Show that to you. Okay. All right. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was banquet event orders. Now, that's a term that's used a lot in the hospitality industry, especially if you've worked in like a hotel or something like that. That's a word they use a lot for a document that's, I would say, closely related to the confirmation. Usually, though, it's used more internally with event staff. But we do see it in our customers as well. So Mazévo can produce a banquet event order document. And I just wanted to show you what that looks like. So here I've got a event that is open up here, my alumni networking event. Now this does have some old bookings on there. So there's four bookings with it. When I hit the email button, as we've seen today, this will generate the confirmation, but I actually have an option here where we choose the confirmation template to choose banquet event order. Now this differs a little bit from the confirmation in the way that it's laid out. One of the biggest differences is that each booking is going to be printed. If we were printing this, it would be displayed on its own sheet of paper. So whereas the confirmation, if the bookings are relatively short and they don't have a lot of notes or anything underneath them, you may have multiple bookings showing up on a single confirmation page. Here, what's going on is each booking is broken out into its own page, and then the services are what's highlighted. So instead, if we were to compare this with the confirmation, as you've been seeing, each booking's highlighted and all its details are beneath it. Here, we're highlighting the service for the booking and what its details are. So here, this one's got room setup and catering, and I can see those things. And I have to keep scrolling to page 2 to see the next booking that's happening here on Monday, May 13th. And here are its details. And again, I can go to the next one here on May 20th. Here are its details. So it's just a different way of presenting the information. And, if your organization operates that way, then you probably already use this currently in Mazévo. But I did want to point out that this does exist. Now, the way that this is set up is under your settings. It's found under confirmation templates. You just go in here, and here's my banquet event order. And it's a matter of just changing this report type right here. So it's a drop down with two options. You want to be in confirmation mode or banquet event order. So you just choose that, and then it will display in that way for you. So wanted to show that. The other thing that's related to this is requesters. So sometimes we get asked the question, hey, when somebody submits a request, do they get an email back from the system that lets them know they submitted their request or something like that? They don't actually, but instead what they can do is under my events, I'm going to click on this. So right now you can imagine I'm logged in as a requester. Here's my menu. I go under my events. Here's some events that I have submitted. And if I click into any of these events right here, there is a button up here for request summary. And what that does is it will produce a document that is very similar, you could say, to the confirmation, but it basically is going to list out all the details for this event. So it's a way for me to generate kind of a document that shows here's all the stuff I submitted with my request. And notice it does say, this particular one here does say pending because it has not been approved yet. So it's a way, I can see that it's still in pending. I can see everything that I've requested. This particular event, it does have charges on it, so those display as well. If there are no charges on here, obviously you wouldn't see those, but it's a way for I, as the requester, to get kind of a copy of everything that I've submitted that way, just for my own records or something like that. So again, that's found under up here under request summary when they click into any of their events that way. So just wanted to bring that up as well. So at this point, this concludes the main things that we wanted to show about the confirmation. As you can see, there's quite a bit there, quite a few options to really tailor this. I actually was reminded and even learned a few things here listening to Dean and Wendy, which is always good. So I'd like to just open it up for any Q&A. I don't know if anybody's put in any additional questions in the chat here, or feel free if you want to just unmute yourself and ask a question. You can do that as well. So does anybody have any questions?
I had one question. When it comes to the confirmation templates and the footers and headers, sometimes I notice that they disappear the next time I come back to that confirmation, and sometimes they stay. Is there a reason why sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't?
Not a good reason. Let me, I'll take a look at that, but I would have said they would have stayed. If you open that exact event up and went to the confirmation, I would have said they would have, the headers and footers would have stayed. Now, it might be because if you're changing the template from one to another, that it may reset them and not be there. So, but I could take a look at that for you.
Okay, yeah, good to know.
We've got a couple in the chat here. Yes, Hillary, this will be posted up on our website, so you can rewatch this.
Yes, and I plan to turn this into a blog article as well. So for those of you that prefer to read something like this rather than watching the video, again, we're going to have it in both formats. Usually takes about a month or so to get the blog article up there as well, but just stay tuned for that. So.
Katie, on that request summary, we don't have any default headers and footers on that. That would be one of the things that there's not a lot of option for configuring that at this point. We don't need that. I guess we don't really know how many people actually use it, but if more people want that, we could certainly expose something like that in the confirmation template area and say this is the request summary, so you could turn things on or off that way. So, okay. So can you add event notes? Not at this point. We only put event notes on the confirmation, not the BEO. We could look at that. So I know, Crystal, you guys are heavy into the BEO there, but we could take a look at that. We just need to find a place to put them. They'd probably be up above with all of the other heading information on a BEO. So I'll put that on our list.
All right.
Anything else from anybody?
Like we're wrapping up here, and we wrapped up on time too. This has been great. When we were putting this together, we were going, wow, there's a lot of information here. So it's good that we were able to keep it into an hour. So good stuff there. Well, that's all we have for today. I don't see any other questions rolling in at the moment. Stay tuned for next month's Mazévo Connect. We're still finalizing the subject matter for that. So I'll send something out here probably in the next week or so. Everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend and enjoy the long weekend, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.